I was standing in the express lane at Price Barn in Clover Creek, Missouri, minding my own business with my rotisserie chicken and bottle of hot sauce, when I heard it. That sound. You know the one. The screech of a shopping cart being wielded like a battering ram, followed by the kind of voice that could curdle milk at 20 paces. "Excuse you. This is a medical emergency." The woman's voice cut through the peaceful Tuesday evening atmosphere like a chainsaw through butter. I looked up to see a cart loaded higher than my truck bed coming straight for the express lane. The sign above us literally flashed in neon, 10 items or less. This woman had at least 40 items. I counted. Because when you teach high school shop class like I do, you develop a keen eye for when something's wildly out of specification. She rammed her cart into the plastic divider with enough force to make it buckle. A toddler 3 people behind me dropped his fruit snacks in what I can only describe as slow-motion horror. The collective groan that rippled through the store was like something out of a movie. We were all thinking the same thing. We were all witnesses to what was about to become a legendary Clover Creek moment. Let me paint you a picture of Darlene Whitaker. 47 years old. HOA president of the Meadowbrook Estates subdivision. The kind of woman who writes violation notices for lawn gnomes and measures your grass height with a ruler. She was wearing a bedazzled sweatshirt that read Momager, veteran loyalty member in rhinestones that probably violated several taste ordinances. Her hair was frozen in that aggressive suburban soccer mom cut with bangs that looked like they'd been trimmed with garden shears. She carried a coupon binder the size of a family Bible, and she wielded it like a weapon of mass discount. I'm Miles Donnelly, by the way. 31, unmarried, and blessed with what my mother calls Midwestern patience and what my students call being too nice for my own good. I teach shop at Clover Creek High. I drive a pickup truck. I say please and thank you. And I absolutely cannot stand when people try nonsense in public spaces. It's like watching someone key their own car. Just painful and unnecessary. Price Barn isn't fancy. It's the kind of store where everyone still says howdy and the intercom plays classic rock between announcements about cleanup in aisle 7. Every register has a laminated sign in friendly bold letters. 10 items or less. Yes, we count. Below that, in slightly smaller font, cutting the line equals no service. These signs exist for a reason, and that reason was currently parking her overloaded cart sideways across the express lane entrance. Darlene slapped her palm on top of a sweating tub of Neapolitan ice cream and announced to the store at large, "Store policy clearly states that perishables go first. Also, I'm Gold Star Executive Elite. That supersedes your little sign." I blinked. The teenage cashier, Ricky, froze with a box of cereal halfway to the scanner. The woman in front of me with her 3 items actually turned around to see if she'd heard correctly. "Ma'am," I said, keeping my voice level and polite because that's how we do things in Missouri, "that's not actually a thing." She turned to me with a smile so sweet it could have given me diabetes, and tapped the express lane sign with one glittered fingernail. "Exactly. It doesn't say NO Elite members." Then she whistled. Actually whistled. At Ricky. Like he was a golden retriever who'd wandered off. "Ricky, honey, ring me up. My ice cream is on a medical plan. Time-sensitive situation here. Now, I teach teenagers for a living. I've heard every excuse, every creative interpretation of rules, every attempt to bend reality into a pretzel that suits someone's immediate needs. But claiming Gold Star Executive Elite status at a discount grocery store? That was a new one. And the medical plan for ice cream? That was inspired lunacy. When nobody moved, when Ricky just stood there with his mouth slightly open like a confused bass, Darlene escalated. She flipped open her coupon binder, and the plastic sleeves flapped like the wings of some deranged bat. From its depths, she produced what looked suspiciously like a homemade laminated card. It read, in Comic Sans font I might add, "Niece of the manager." She held it up like it was a federal badge. "I can authorize myself," she declared with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her entire life. The woman in front of me made a sound that was half laugh, half choke. Someone behind me muttered something about calling corporate. I just stood there with my chicken, wondering how my simple Tuesday evening had turned into dinner theater. But Darlene Whitaker wasn't done. Not even close. See, being HOA president for 6 years had apparently convinced her that rules were suggestions and authority was whatever she said it was. She unhooked the red stanchion rope that separated the express lane from the regular checkouts. Just unhooked it. Like she owned the place. Then she marched right up to the counter and slapped a big red button labeled Assistance. The intercom crackled to life with a sound like a dying walrus. Attention Clover Creek Price Barn shoppers. Code perishable. Priority customer requires immediate checkout. All non-priority customers please wait. I couldn't believe what I was watching. She just made her own store announcement. The teenager at Register 3 dropped a jar of pickles. The sound of shattering glass was somehow the perfect punctuation to this moment of absolute chaos. But wait. It gets better. Because Darlene looked at her melting ice cream, looked at the emergency exit door behind the checkout counter, and made a decision that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She yanked the emergency door bar to, and I quote, let the cold air out for the ice cream. The alarm that went off was so loud it could have woken the dead in the cemetery 3 blocks over. It was a high-pitched shriek that made every dog in a 5-mile radius start barking. A pyramid display of paper towels near the door started to avalanche in slow motion. And still, she stood there, one hand on her cart, one hand on her hip, looking around like she couldn't understand why everyone was staring. Lady, I said, raising my voice over the alarm, that's literally illegal. She lifted her chin with the kind of pride usually reserved for conquering generals. I know my rights. I'm a taxpayer. I'm an HOA president. And I'm a customer. That makes me triple protected. I don't think she understood how laws work. Or stores. Or basic human society. But karma, as they say, works in mysterious ways. And in Clover Creek, karma wears a green vest and has the patience of a saint who's had enough. The actual manager arrived first. Raina Chen, 52, born and raised in Clover Creek, had been managing this price barn for 15 years and had seen everything. She carried a handheld scanner and the kind of tired authority that comes from dealing with exactly this type of situation at least once a month. Behind her came a gray-bearded man in a St. Louis Cardinals cap. I recognized him as Deputy Frank Morrison, off-duty, who'd been 2 customers behind me with a case of diet soda and a bag of dog food. And bringing up the rear was the front-end supervisor, a woman named Patricia with a walkie-talkie and the kind of union-strong backbone that doesn't bend for self-proclaimed royalty. Every single person in line had their phone out. I saw at least 12 cameras pointed at Darlene like she was an escaped zoo animal. The red recording lights were like fireflies in the fluorescent store lighting. Raina checked her handheld device with the calm of someone who'd been preparing for this exact moment. Ms. Whitaker, according to our system, you have 43 items in your cart. She looked up, her expression perfectly neutral. You also have a history in our database of what we call creative couponing, including 3 attempts to use expired coupons, 2 instances of coupon duplication, and 1 memorable incident where you tried to return a turkey you'd already eaten. The line behind me made a collective sound of disgusted amazement. Someone said, "She did what?" Deputy Morrison cleared his throat. He wasn't in uniform, just jeans and that Cardinals cap, but he reached under his jacket to tap something that looked suspiciously like a badge. Also, ma'am, that emergency door you just triggered? That's a city fire code violation. Real fine. Real consequences. Probably around $800 for a false alarm. I watched Darlene's face cycle through about 15 different emotions. Fuck. Denial. Anger. More denial. A brief flicker of realization before doubling down on anger. I didn't shout. I didn't need to. I just spoke clearly, letting my words carry across the frozen tableau of suburban drama. Ma'am, we're all happy to let you go. To the back of the store. To the regular checkout lanes. Where the rest of us mortals shop when we have more than 10 items. The applause that erupted was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. It started with the toddler who'd dropped his fruit snacks, clapping with sticky hands. Then his mother joined in. Then everyone. A slow clap that built into a genuine standing ovation right there in the express lane of a discount grocery store in Missouri. Someone yelled, "Get her, Miles!" Even though I hadn't really done anything except exist with principles. Darlene's face went from red to purple. She tried to wheel her cart through anyway, because of course she did. The cart clipped the intercom stand. The stand wobbled. And then the ancient, probably code-violating sprinkler sensor directly above Register 4 detected what it interpreted as a fire hazard. The sprinklers went off with a sound like pissshhhht. It was beautiful. It was poetic. It was the most perfect karma I'd ever witnessed in my 31 years on this earth. The water came down in a gentle but persistent indoor rain that baptized Darlene Whitaker, her ice cream, her coupon binder, and precisely one pyramid display of dinner rolls that nobody would be buying today. Her bedazzled sweatshirt started shedding rhinestones like a disco ball having a nervous breakdown. They pinged off the floor like tiny glittering tears. Her coupon binder absorbed water like a desperate sponge, and I watched in slow motion as years of carefully organized coupons turned into papier-mâché. They stuck to her face like confetti at the world's pettiest parade. The receipt printer, sensing its moment, chose right then to vomit out a yard-long strip of coupon not valid errors that fluttered around her like defeated surrender flags. Deputy Morrison stepped forward, water dripping from his cardinal's cap. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step away from the emergency exit. And we're going to have a conversation about that fire alarm you pulled. That's a misdemeanor charge." Raina, who'd somehow managed to grab an umbrella from the display 2 aisles over and was standing perfectly dry, calmly handed me a towel. She waved me toward Register 3, which was operated by an older woman named Susan who looked absolutely delighted by the evening's entertainment. "Sir, 10 items or less. You've got 2. You're up." The still-assembled crowd parted like I was royalty. Like I was Moses and they were the Red Sea and justice was the Promised Land. Susan scanned my chicken and hot sauce in about 15 seconds flat. The beeps were like a victory song. Someone behind me started a chant, "2 items! 2 items!" The applause when I paid was louder than the homecoming game crowd when we beat Jefferson High last fall. I grabbed my bag, tipped an imaginary hat to Raina, and walked out into the parking lot with my head high and my conscience clear. Behind me, I could hear Darlene peeling wet coupons off her face and demanding to speak to corporate. The alarm was still going. The sprinklers were still sprinkling. And justice, sweet justice, was being served in aisle 4. The next day, I learned the full extent of Darlene's consequences. The fire alarm fine was $850. The city took these things seriously, especially false alarms that tied up emergency response resources. But that was just the beginning. See, all those phones recording. Every single angle of her meltdown hit social media within an hour. Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, the local Clover Creek community page. By morning, she was locally viral. The video had been shared 17,000 times. Someone had made a remix of her screaming medical ice cream emergency, set to dramatic orchestral music. Another person created a compilation of Top 10 Darlene Moments that included the turkey return incident Raina had mentioned. Her employer, a local real estate office where she worked as an agent, saw the videos. They saw their company name in the comments, saw people saying they'd never use an agent who acted like that, saw the potential damage to their reputation. They fired her that afternoon. Professional embarrassment doesn't quite cover it. Professional obliteration might be closer. But the real consequence, the one that would hurt Darlene the most, came 3 days later. The Meadowbrook Estates HOA held an emergency meeting. 37 homeowners showed up, which was approximately 33 more than usually attended. They'd all seen the videos. They'd all watched their HOA president claim special privileges, pull fire alarms, and generally act like rules didn't apply to her. They voted. It wasn't even close. 41-2 to remove her from the board effective immediately. Her reign of law enforcement terror was over. I heard she tried to fight it. Threatened lawsuits. Claimed defamation. Said the videos were edited. But when you pull a fire alarm and set off sprinklers in front of 40 witnesses and a dozen cameras, there's not much wiggle room for alternative facts. The last I heard, Darlene was sitting in the Clover Creek Municipal Court, writing a check for $850, looking at her phone where her 1-star review of Price Barn had been completely buried under 4,000 replies roasting her into oblivion. The top comment from Price Barn's official account simply read, "Hi Darlene. We don't discriminate. We count. Next time, try the regular checkout lanes. She never went back to that price barn. Some say she drives 40 minutes to the next town over to shop. Some say she orders everything online now. But everyone in Clover Creek knows what happens when you think you're above the rules. You get wet, you get fined, you lose your job, and you get voted out of the only position of power you ever had. All because you couldn't wait in line like everyone else.